In this video, I'm going to talk about the most common carnivore diet myths. All right, so there are some pretty common things that people tend to say about the carnivore diet, and today I'm going to debunk them. Myth number one, the carnivore diet is too restrictive and not sustainable. It's not about restriction. It's about focusing on what our bodies were designed to thrive on. I found that eating animal-based foods can be incredibly satisfying and fulfilling. You're not constantly hungry or craving snacks. You eat less often because of this, and it just makes it easier to stick with. So I have to debunk this one right away. It's not too restrictive. It's definitely sustainable. And you can also get a good variety of what you're eating in on the carnivore diet, even though people think like, oh, you're basically just eating meat all the time. But there's so many different types of meat, different cuts of steak that you can make if you're eating like beef, for instance, and so forth. And it's just not restrictive to me at all. All right, myth number two, the carnivore diet will lead to high cholesterol and heart disease. This is one of the biggest concerns people have when considering whether or not to go to the carnivore diet. But research shows that high cholesterol does not necessarily correlate to heart disease. In fact, studies suggest that the increase in cholesterol on the carnivore diet is actually a sign of improved metabolic health. And it's also important to note that on the carnivore diet, you generally see a huge reduction in triglycerides. Myth number three, you'll be nutritionally deficient on the carnivore diet. Some people say you won't get enough vitamins or minerals on the carnivore diet, but here's the thing. The carnivore diet is actually incredibly nutrient dense. Meat is packed with vitamins, minerals, vitamin A, B12, zinc, iron, and so on. And, despite popular belief, no one on the carnivore diet has suffered from scurvy. You really don't need as much vitamin C when you're on the carnivore diet because you're not eating any carbs. And when you're eating carbs, it tends to mess up with your body's absorption of vitamin C. So you need more vitamin C, but you don't need as much on the carnivore diet. And believe it or not, there actually is some vitamin C in meat. Myth number four, the carnivore diet is bad for your kidneys. People say that eating too much protein will damage your kidneys. To an extent, there is some truth to that, especially for those who already have problems with their kidneys. But we're talking about high levels of protein that you would have to be eating, which doesn't really fit the carnivore diet. Carnivore diet is a high protein diet, but there's a particular sweet spot that you want to get around to eating. And carnivore diet, it's a high protein, it's high fat, and it would be very, very difficult to eat as much protein as you would need to actually cause those kinds of issues because you're also eating high fat and you will just get full to the point that you can't eat anymore. Now, if you're really worried about your protein intake, you can look at what the different calculations are for how much protein you should be eating and just make sure that you're within that good sweet spot. In most cases, people are going to find that they're either at that sweet spot or they're lower than where they should be in protein. So make no mistake, carnivore diet is a high protein diet and high protein intake is beneficial for muscle mass and overall health. All right, myth number five, you'll get bored of eating meat all the time. Eating steak, eggs, and bacon all the time might seem a little bit repetitive at first, but once you dive into this way of eating, you'll find that it is actually a ton of variety in that. There's so many different types of meat. There's different cuts of meat, different cuts of steak. Like if you're looking at beef, there's New York strip, there's ribeye, there's sirloin, and on, right? There's different cuts that you can do. There's different recipes you can do with meat, especially like ground beef. You can take ground beef and do several different ways of eating it in different recipes. There are influencers out there like Chris Cooking Nashville that have tons of videos on carnivore and different recipes that you can have, different things, foods that are actually carnivore that you can make into carnivore. And it's just amazing at the variety that there really is out there. So if you're the type of person that really needs a variety, you can still do carnivore with these different recipes. Now, for me personally, I've been doing carnivore for over 2.5 years, and I never get bored of eating what is really my favorite, steak and eggs. So there you have it. Five of the most common carnivore diet myths busted. I hope that this helps to clear up some of the misconceptions surrounding this way of eating. If you've got any other questions or myths you've heard of about the carnivore diet, drop them in the comments below. Till next time, keep eating meat, stay strong, and live well.